There comes a moment in your life when you look around and realize nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to hand you the life you dream about. Nobody's going to fix your habits, heal your wounds, drag you out of bed, or believe in your vision more than you. And that's not a bad thing. That's power. Because the minute you stop waiting and start focusing on you, everything changes. The truth is, the world doesn't respond to your potential. It responds to your decisions, your discipline, your evolution. And the greatest shift you will ever make is when you stop chasing validation. Stop begging for support. Stop competing with people who aren't even thinking about you. And put all that energy back into yourself. This podcast isn't about hoping. It's about becoming. It's not about comparing. It's about transforming. It's about locking in on your growth, your purpose, your elevation, and refusing to let distractions, doubt, or people who don't carry your vision slow you down. You don't need the world to believe in you before you start. You need to believe in yourself long enough to win. So from this moment on, that's the mission. Focus on you until you win. Now let's get into Chapter 1. Focus is a decision, not a feeling. Everybody wants to win, but very few are willing to disappear for it. See, we live in a time where distraction doesn't knock on your door anymore. It sleeps in your pocket. Your phone is the new shortcut to failure, and your attention is the price you keep paying. Every scroll, every notification, every "I'll check for just a second" is a withdrawal from your future. And the harsh truth, most people don't lose because they're not capable. They lose because they stay available to everything but their goals. If you want change, you don't start with motivation. You start with isolation. You pull your energy back from people who drain it. You shut the door on noise that keeps you small. You stop auditioning for acceptance and start training for elevation. Let me tell you something. Your breakthrough will not come in public. It'll come in those late nights when your mind is tired, but your spirit won't let you quit. It'll come in the mornings when nobody's watching you, nobody's clapping for you, nobody's checking on you, but you show up anyway. That's where winners are built. The world teaches you to chase attention. Success teaches you to ignore it. You don't need the world to understand your grind. You don't need approval to reinvent yourself. You don't need applause to move. When it's time to level up, you don't announce it. You vanish. You offload dead weight. You stop explaining. You stop defending. You stop leaking energy into conversations that don't feed your purpose. Because focus isn't about what you look at. It's about what you refuse to look at. You know why lions don't concern themselves with the noise of the jungle? Because when they're locked in on the hunt, nothing else exists. There's no gossip in their head, no comparison, no hesitation, just target and timing, just instinct and execution. You have that same ability, but life has taught you to be loyal to distractions. You've been trained to check your phone before you check your soul, to scroll more than you reflect, to talk about dreams more than you move on them. And then you wonder why nothing is shifting. Listen, your life isn't waiting on a miracle, it's waiting on a decision. A decision to commit even when you don't feel like it. A decision to stop being accessible to everything that slows you down. A decision to stop negotiating with your purpose every time comfort calls your name. You will never reach the highest version of yourself while staying loyal to your lowest habits. There's a version of you that doesn't quit halfway. A version of you that doesn't break routine every time boredom shows up. A version of you that doesn't ask for permission to grow. And that version is waiting behind every distraction you say yes to. You don't need more time. You need fewer leaks. You don't need more motivation. You need more boundaries. Your focus is cracked not because your vision is weak, but because your door is open. Some of you are exhausted not because you're working too hard, but because you're interrupted too often. You're tired because you're divided. You're drained because you give your mind to too many places before you ever give it to yourself. Winning requires withdrawal. You don't rise by being everywhere. You rise by being unreachable to average thinking. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You're not overwhelmed. You're overconnected. You're not behind. You're distracted. You're not failing. You're unfocused. Your destiny has been calling, but so has everything else, and you keep answering the wrong voice. From this moment forward, you owe your future more respect than your past. You owe your calling more loyalty than your comfort. You owe your purpose more effort than your excuses. Because the day you finally decide to silence the world and tune in to your own frequency, everything changes. Your circle tightens, your energy sharpens, your time becomes sacred. Your work starts to compound, and success, it starts to feel less like a possibility and more like a consequence. Nobody is going to hand you the life you want. Nobody is going to push you into focus. Nobody is going to guard your time for you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. That's your transformation. And if you're sitting there thinking, but it's hard. Of course it's hard. That's the point. Comfort is the language of average. Discipline is the accent of the uncommon. You cannot complain about a life you chose to pause every time distractions knock. You cannot ask for more while giving most of your energy to what gives nothing back. You cannot pray for elevation and still entertain what keeps you grounded. It's time to choose your future over your feelings. Focus isn't something you find. It's something you protect. And this, right here, is the moment you start protecting it. Chapter 2. You versus you. The biggest fight of your life will never be with another person. It won't be with your boss, your parents, your past, or your environment. The real opponent, the one that keeps showing up, is the version of you that keeps trying to pull you back to who you used to be. See, people think the enemy is outside. They think it's the haters, the doubters, the people who left, the ones who don't see your value. But the real battle, it's internal. It's the voice that says later when you know it should be now. It's the whisper that says you've done enough when you know you barely scratched the surface. It's the side of you that's addicted to comfort, addicted to approval, addicted to being liked and understood. You don't lose to other people. You lose to hesitation. You lose to procrastination. You lose to comparison. You lose to that weaker version of you that keeps negotiating with your potential. That's the opponent that keeps you average. That's the opponent that talks you out of your greatness. That's the opponent that knows your weaknesses because it lives inside your skin. But the good news, that opponent doesn't own you unless you let it. It doesn't win unless you surrender. The same mind that holds you back is the same mind that can set you free. But you've got to train it, confront it, and command it. You don't become powerful by wishing away weakness. You become powerful by facing it head-on. You rise not by rejecting struggle, but by mastering it. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you land a punch on the old you. Every time you show up tired but still execute, you weaken the grip of your excuses. Every time you do the work nobody sees, you separate from the version of you that only operates when it's convenient. There's a version of you that only moves when conditions are perfect. That version has to die. There's a version of you that waits for motivation before taking action. That version has to go. There's a version of you that wants applause before effort, credit before consistency, shortcuts instead of strategy. That version is the biggest threat to your future. You don't have to destroy your old life, but you do have to outgrow it. Growth is not a makeover, it's an eviction notice to the parts of you that don't belong in the next chapter. Think about it. Your biggest problems came from the decisions of a past version of you. The one that settled, delayed, stayed comfortable, avoided risk, stayed around the wrong people, or ignored the voice inside that said move. So if that version created the mess, a stronger version has to clean it up. A wiser version has to rebuild it. A focused version has to take over. The war isn't won in a day. You don't flip a switch and become unstoppable. It happens the moment you stop letting feelings dictate your future. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't contracts. Feelings are impulses, and impulses aren't allowed to steer your purpose. You keep thinking you need motivation. No, you need a standard. When you raise your standard, discipline becomes automatic. When you raise your standard, effort becomes your identity, not an event. When you raise your standard, you stop tolerating the behaviors that sabotage you. You hold yourself accountable the way you wish others would. And when you do that long enough, something shifts. You stop fighting for your limitations and start fighting for your evolution. Listen, there's a you that only shows up when others are watching, and there's a you that shows up when your future is on the line. You already know which one wins. The you that can focus in silence is more powerful than the you that performs for attention. The you that can grind without applause is more dangerous than the you that waits to be seen. Most people lose because they're loyal to feelings over principles. They listen to tired, they listen to bored, they listen to doubt, they listen to fear. But you don't win by listening, you win by deciding. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it, you remind yourself why it's required. You want to know the real difference between people who win and people who stay stuck. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections, it's not education, it's not even timing. It's whether they chose to become someone their excuses couldn't control. You are either becoming the reason you elevate or the excuse you don't. Start telling yourself the truth. You don't lack time, you leak time. You don't lack opportunity, you lack focus. You don't lack support, you're waiting for people to validate a calling that wasn't given to them. The life you want doesn't respond to complaints. It responds to clarity. It responds to discipline. It responds to repetition. It responds to identity. You don't have to scream your goals. You don't have to announce your moves. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You just have to outwork who you were yesterday. Outlast your distractions. Outthink your negative patterns. Outgrow your old circle. Outperform your doubts. And eventually the old you, the distracted you, the hesitant you, the excuse-making you, won't even recognize who you've become. You're not in competition with anyone else. Your only competition is the version of you that delays greatness for comfort. You don't have to be better than the world. You just have to be so consistent that the old you has no room to return. At the end of the day, there will always be two voices. One that says, you can rest, nobody's watching. And one that says, get up, your future is. One that says, do it tomorrow. And one that says, tomorrow only exists if you earn today. One that says, it's too much. And one that says, you've wasted enough. You decide who wins. Not once, not sometimes, but daily. Because focus isn't a mood, it's a contract with yourself. And the moment you hold yourself to it, the battle shifts in your favor. Your life changes the day you finally get tired of negotiating with the version of you that keeps losing. And today, that version just met its replacement. Chapter 3. The Cost of Distraction. Everybody says they want success, but most people are renting their attention out to the very things that are stealing it. And the price? Their future. Distraction is not just entertainment, it's debt. Every moment you give to something that doesn't grow you is a withdrawal from the life you say you want. You're not just losing time, you're losing position. You're losing momentum, you're losing clarity. And you don't even see it, because distraction never shows up looking like destruction. It shows up disguised as a break, a quick check, a laugh, just 5 minutes. But 5 minutes borrowed from a dream is 5 opportunities delayed. And here's the hardest truth. You're not overwhelmed, you're overstimulated. Your brain is tired because it's running mental marathons in circles. You're feeding it 1,000 inputs and starving it of direction. You're updated on everyone's life but your own. You know who's dating who's trending, who went viral, but can't tell yourself the last time you spent a full hour building something that mattered. The world is not lacking opportunity. It's lacking focus. And if you don't fight for yours, it will be auctioned off to the lowest bidder. Notifications, gossip, trends, arguments you didn't need to be in, conversations that drain you, people who don't even know the weight you carry. You can't rise while being reachable to everything. Your phone shouldn't have more access to you than your purpose does. Some of you start your day with your thumb instead of your thoughts, scrolling before you even speak to yourself. You plug into distraction before you plug into direction, and then wonder why your day feels like you're chasing it instead of commanding it. Listen to me. Discipline isn't just about doing the work. It's about guarding the environment that allows the work to happen. You can't build like a beast while living like bait. You can't ask for greatness and then hand your attention to whatever knocks first. There is a reason the most successful people in the world keep their world small when they're building. Not because they're antisocial, but because they're unavailable to anything that interrupts the assignment. They're not rude, they're not cold, they're not distant. They're just not for sale. Their time is not free. Their peace is not public property. Their focus is not optional, it's protected. You have to get to the point where your mental space is sacred. where access to you is earned, not assumed, where you stop explaining why you're unavailable and start living like your future deserves privacy. Some of you aren't burnt out, you're just leaking energy everywhere. You're in battles that aren't yours. You're entertaining arguments that don't matter. You're trying to prove things to people who don't even remember what they said. You're spending hours talking about problems instead of using minutes to solve them. Energy is expensive. Stop spending it like it's free. You can't keep saying, "I don't have time," and then donate your day to distractions. You don't lack hours. Your hours lack intention. The difference between those who make it and those who don't is not talent, it's target. The successful operate on aim. The average operate on impulse. And I know distraction feels harmless in the moment, but wasted minutes compound into wasted months, and wasted months turn into maybe next year. Before you know it, you're giving powerful years to pointless habits. Here's the truth. Nobody wants to say, "You're not addicted to distraction, you're avoiding confrontation." Because staying busy with nonsense is easier than facing the work that would change you. Nonsense is numbing. Purpose is pressuring, and pressure exposes weakness. That's why some of you would rather scroll than grow, rather argue than act, rather talk dreams than build them. You need to hear this. Your destiny can't compete for your attention. It won't beg, it won't plead, it won't chase you down. It will simply wait until you get tired of wasting what was meant to save you. And no, you don't need to disappear from the world. You just need to disappear from what drains you. You don't need to move to a new city. You need to evict distractions from your mind. You don't need more hours. You need more ownership of the ones you already have. At some point, you must choose what gets to live in your head. You must choose what conversations you're available for. You must choose whether you're going to keep feeding the habits that keep you small or feed the hunger that keeps you moving. Your focus should not be up for negotiation. Your energy should not be a public buffet. Your dreams should not be fighting your dopamine addictions for a spot in your schedule. Silence is not empty, it's where strategy is born. Boredom is not the enemy, it's the incubator for ideas. Quiet is not loneliness, it's clarity's best friend. But you'll never know that as long as you treat stimulation like oxygen. There's a version of you that's unstoppable, but it can't exist in a world where you answer every beep, respond to every comment, engage every argument, and scroll through every trend. You want uncommon results, but you're living with common habits. You want elite success, but you keep rehearsing average behaviors. You either control your attention, or your attention will control your outcome. Because distraction is not passive, it's strategic. Everything around you is engineered to keep you scrolling, watching, buying, reacting, comparing, consuming. If you don't put a filter on your focus, your life will be designed by algorithms instead of vision. And here's the part that hurts. You already know what distracts you. You already know who drains you. You already know what apps eat your time. You already know the conversations that derail your peace. But knowing doesn't change outcomes. Decisions do. You can't keep living on almost focused, almost consistent, almost intentional, almost disciplined, almost never built anything. You don't get credit for potential, only for what you protect long enough to produce. So from this moment on, ask yourself before you give anything your energy. Does this feed my future or starve it? Does this move me forward or numb me in place? Is this building my momentum or stealing it in silence? Because distraction is not an accident, it's a tax on the undisciplined. And you've paid enough. Now it's time to invest your attention like your future depends on it. Because it does. Chapter 4. Winning the war in your mind. You will never rise above the limits of your own thinking. You can switch environments, change friend groups, start new habits, make a vision board, set alarms, sign up for programs, but if your mind is still programmed to doubt, delay, fear, and sabotage, nothing changes for long. Your real enemy isn't out there. It lives in your head, and if you don't learn how to master your thoughts, they will master you. This is the chapter most people skip in life. They focus on actions. Wake up early, go to the gym, start the business, go back to school, write the plan. But the problem is not the action. The problem is the voice that says, "Not today, you're not ready, it won't work, take a break, try later. You'll probably fail anyway. You're tired, you deserve rest, you can start next month." That voice is not harmless. That voice is the chains around your future. Winning the war in your mind is not about being positive all the time. It's about refusing to let destructive thinking become your default. You have to develop the awareness to catch your thoughts before they take over. Some of you have lived your whole life reacting to your thoughts instead of directing them. That ends now. The first battle is recognizing the three voices that hold you back: fear, doubt, and memory. Fear says, "What if it all goes wrong?" Doubt says, "Who do you think you are?" Memory says, "You failed before and you'll probably fail again." These three voices have been running your internal dialogue for years, and you didn't even realize it. They show up every time you try to level up. You get an idea, fear jumps in. You take a step forward, doubt comes in. You try again after a setback. Memory replays your worst moments, but here's a truth people don't tell you. Those voices will never fully disappear. Even the most successful people hear them. The difference is, winners don't let those voices make decisions. They don't hand over the steering wheel to fear. They don't give doubt the final say. They don't let their past dictate their destiny. They hear those voices and keep moving anyway. You don't need silence in your head. You need dominance. You need to outtalk the negativity with louder, stronger, clearer truth. You need to give your mind new instructions. The subconscious does not obey your intentions, it obeys your repeated input. That means thinking the right thoughts is not enough. You have to install them, you have to affirm them, you have to reinforce them daily. Some of you don't have a success problem. You have a story problem. You've told yourself the same weak narrative for so long, your mind treats it like law. You might not say it out loud, but internally you're repeating, "I'm always overwhelmed. Nothing works out for me. I don't have support. I'm too late. I've wasted too much time. People don't take me seriously. I don't have the confidence. I always mess things up." And even when opportunities show up, that internal script blocks your ability to act. Winning the war in your mind starts with replacing the script. Not with fake positivity, but with new truth. You're not too late. You're not underqualified. You're not cursed. You are not meant to live stuck, broke, confused, or invisible. You were designed to grow. You were built to overcome. But your mind has to come into agreement with that before your life does. This is not about motivation. It's about recalibration. You've been programming your brain unintentionally your whole life through repetition. Now you have to rewire it intentionally. That means speaking to yourself on purpose. When doubt speaks, you respond. When fear rises, you override it. When memory tries to drag you back, you remind it who you're becoming, not who you were. Focus on you until you win doesn't just mean hustle harder. It means protect your mental space like your future depends on it. Because it does. You can't afford to meditate on stress, failure, or insecurity every day and expect high performance. Your thinking is your engine. If it's contaminated, it doesn't matter how strong the body is. You won't move. When you wake up in the morning, your mind is most vulnerable. That's when worry tries to get in. That's when stress reminds you of yesterday. That's when your past failures try to replay. You have to attack that moment with intention. Before you reach for your phone, before you scroll, before you check anything, you need to tell your mind where it's allowed to go. You think champions wake up and just feel confident? No. They command confidence. They build it through daily mental exercise. While most people feed their mind the leftovers of circumstance, winners serve their mind a deliberate menu: gratitude, identity, faith, expectation, vision. Not feelings, decisions. You don't get the thoughts you want, you get the thoughts you practice. That applies to fear and doubt, but it also applies to courage and determination. What you rehearse becomes your reflex, and most people only rehearse defeat. You have to build mental weapons. Declarations you repeat, reminders you post where you can see them, audio you listen to that recalibrates your direction, environments that don't trigger regression. Stop trying to change your life while leaving your mental ecosystem toxic. And don't miss this, your triggers aren't random. Some of the people you follow, some of the music you play, some of the complaints you entertain, some of the conversations you allow, they're not neutral. They're reinforcing the wrong voice. They're feeding the enemy in your head. You can't keep giving access to things that assassinate your focus and then wonder why discipline feels impossible. When you protect your mind, you protect your momentum. When you master your thoughts, you master your habits. Your life will always move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So if your thoughts are small, anxious, inconsistent, or defeated, your future will reflect that. But when your internal dialogue shifts, everything else shifts with it. Your energy levels change. How you show up changes. What you tolerate changes. Your goals start feeling possible. Your actions start becoming consistent. Your patience grows. Your resilience expands. You go from reacting to designing, from avoiding to attacking, from hesitating to executing. You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because your mind has been leading you into the same circles. That ends the moment you take back authorship of your thoughts. Every time you catch yourself thinking something weak, you don't let it pass. You confront it, correct it, and replace it before it roots itself. This is not a one-time fight. It's daily, but here's the good news. Once your mind becomes your ally instead of your opponent, you become unstoppable. You won't need people to motivate you or push you. Your own internal system will be aligned in your favor. You'll walk differently, speak differently, work differently, choose differently. Focus on you until you win starts internally. If you don't conquer the hidden war in your mind, you'll lose battles you were built to win. But once this clicks, once you stop letting fear, doubt, and memory narrate your life, you step into a new level. Not because life got easier, but because your mindset stopped surrendering. Chapter 5. The Power of Consistent Execution. There comes a point in your journey where motivation is no longer the issue. You don't need more hype, more quotes, more energy. What you need is consistency, the kind of steady execution that does not collapse when feelings fade or distractions flare. Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they are inconsistent. Their ambition shows up in moments, but never matures into rhythm. And without rhythm, nothing lasts. You've probably had seasons where you were on fire, waking up early, working out, reading, building, creating, staying focused. And then something knocked you off track. Maybe you got tired. Maybe life got busy. Maybe one bad day turned into 3, then 7, then 3 months of drift. And you told yourself, I'll get back on it soon. But momentum doesn't wait. It moves in the direction of action, not intention. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's the ability to do the things you said you would do long after the emotion you felt when you said it has faded. It's how you turn effort into identity. When you're consistent, your mind starts believing you. Your body starts adjusting to your commands. Your environment starts responding to your energy. This is when the world stops doubting you, because you're no longer doubting yourself. But you need to hear this. Discipline doesn't start in the big moments. It starts in the invisible ones. It's not built on the day you land the opportunity. It's built on the days you wake up tired but still move. The days your emotions say no, but your standards say yes. The days when there's no audience clapping, no reward in sight, no dramatic breakthrough, just you showing up because you said you would. Most people break their own promise long before life does. They set goals but don't build patterns. They get excited but they don't install structure. They want growth but refuse repetition. And the moment discomfort arrives, they negotiate their way out of the process. They say things like, I'll skip today. I'll start again Monday. I've been good lately. I can chill now. That mindset is why years pass with nothing changing. If you want to win, you have to reframe your relationship with consistency. It is not a prison, it is your passport. Structure doesn't limit your freedom, it creates it. People who hate routine are usually stuck in cycles they never chose. They think they're being free by avoiding discipline, but their lack of consistency becomes its own confinement. Freedom without order leads to chaos. Growth without habit leads to collapse. You don't have to overhaul your life in one move. You just need a rhythm you refuse to break. Small actions, repeated with discipline, turn into systems. And systems produce transformation. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. Think of the gym. Most people don't fail because they can't lift the weight, they fail because they don't show up long enough to grow strong. Think of business. It's not that they don't have ideas, it's that they start today, pause tomorrow, restart next month, quit when it slows down, try again after a crisis, and wonder why nothing compounds. Consistency is what creates compounding, and compounding is what creates power. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Average people want intensity. Successful people rely on consistency. Intensity is attractive. It looks powerful because it's loud, it's dramatic, it's fast. But intensity without consistency leads to burnout. Meanwhile, consistency looks quiet, unexciting, even boring. Until one day, the results are undeniable. The world gives trophies to outcomes, but the universe rewards patterns. You don't get lucky by accident. You position yourself through repetition. Execution becomes instinct when you do it long enough. What used to require effort becomes your new baseline. But you will never reach that baseline if you keep resetting your progress every time life gets inconvenient. You must stop glorifying the grind and start respecting the process. There's a difference. The grind is fueled by emotion, and urgency. The process is fueled by decision and alignment. Grind burns you out. Process builds you up. The grind is a sprint. The process is endurance. Your future doesn't need you to sprint once. It needs you to walk daily. Ask yourself, how many times have you started over? How many times have you been getting back on track? How much energy have you wasted cycling through the same beginning instead of stacking progress? Starting is not your problem, sustaining is, and sustaining begins with clarity. When your vision is cloudy, your habits are weak. You can't commit to something you're not deeply anchored to. That's why you need to define your why, not in motivational terms, but in conviction. Your why has to be bigger than your mood swings. You can be tired, frustrated, emotional, but your why doesn't change. That's how consistency survives. But clarity without strategy still collapses. You need a system. You need structure, and not some grand perfect schedule, something you can actually execute. Something that fits your reality but still challenges your comfort. Something non-negotiable. Something that eliminates decision fatigue. Successful people don't wake up and feel their way into action. They wake up and follow the blueprint they already designed. Their actions are pre-decided, so their emotions don't get to interfere. They don't negotiate with comfort. They don't debate their goals every morning. They don't waste energy wondering if they should work on their dream today. They just do it. Consistency also requires protection. You cannot remain consistent in an environment that constantly pulls you back into distraction. Some of you are trying to grow in soil that cannot support you. You're surrounded by people who never follow through, who quit everything, who live for entertainment, who don't respect time, and without realizing it, you've adopted their rhythm. You're not inconsistent, you're influenced. You need to make your standards louder than your surroundings. You need boundaries. You need routines you don't apologize for. You need to normalize honoring your schedule and stop explaining why you're focused. People with no discipline will always question yours. Let them talk, let them judge, let them misunderstand. Their confusion is not your problem. Your future is. And hear this. Accountability accelerates consistency. It doesn't have to be a person checking in on you. It can be self-imposed metrics. A calendar you mark daily, a checklist you refuse to break, a rule you track with honesty. When you measure your behavior, you interrupt denial. You stop lying to yourself about how committed you are. Numbers don't care about your excuses, they reveal your truth. Even on the days when your effort feels small, consistency keeps the engine warm. When you're tired, do the minimum, but do it. When you're uninspired, stick to the routine. When life hits, adjust, but don't abandon. A delayed day is recoverable. A delayed month becomes a rebuilding year. And of course, setbacks will come. You'll miss days, you'll stumble, you'll face resistance, but don't turn a crack into a collapse. One bad moment doesn't cancel your momentum unless you surrender. Winners break patterns of self-sabotage by returning quickly to the path. Not with guilt, with ownership. Not with panic, with precision. Consistency is not just about work ethic, it's about self-trust. Every time you show up, especially when you don't feel like it, you build evidence in your favor. You show your mind that your word is law. And when you trust yourself, execution becomes natural. You no longer need external validation to move. You no longer need hype to take action. Your own integrity becomes your fuel. Focus on you until you win means nothing without consistent execution. Focus without repetition is just a mood. Desire without rhythm is just noise. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to do something every day. And not in bursts, not in short seasons, but in sustained motion. So from here on out, your new standard is not intensity, it's consistency. You don't need to prove how hard you can go in a week. You need to prove how committed you can be every day. You need to stack actions, build patterns, create evidence, and become the kind of person whose future is inevitable. Not because you wished for it, because you worked for it, repeatedly. Chapter 6. Raising your standard for yourself. Everybody wants to win, but not everybody is willing to become the kind of person winning requires. You don't get the life you want. You get the life that matches your standards. And most people don't even realize their standards are low, weak, flexible, and negotiable. They think they're committed because they want better. But your wants don't shape your future, your standards do. A standard is not a preference. A standard is a line you refuse to drop below. A standard is a rule of identity. It's the difference between I'll try and I must, between I hope and I do. And until you raise your standard for yourself, everything in your life will reflect the level you've been tolerating. Let's be real. How many times have you said you were going to change something and you didn't? How many times have you promised yourself you'd never go back to that habit, that job, that relationship, that mindset? And then you did. How many times have you said, I'm better than this, but still allowed this to stay? All of that is a reflection of your standards, not your potential. People think discipline is about willpower, but the truth is, discipline is a byproduct of identity. When you truly raise your standards, your actions follow, not because it's easy, but because anything less becomes unacceptable. You stop negotiating with your excuses, you stop arguing with your responsibilities, you stop justifying average effort, you stop giving yourself credit for almosts and attempts, you stop letting your mood cancel your commitment. The reason you fall off track isn't because you're incapable, it's because you've allowed comfort to have equal voting rights in your decisions. You've allowed your feelings to outrank your standards. But the day you decide, this is just who I am now, not sometimes, not when convenient, but daily, everything shifts. Your standards dictate your energy. Someone with a low standard for their body will only move when they feel motivated. Someone with a high standard trains even when tired. Someone with a low standard for their finances will spend without thinking. Someone with a high standard won't let themselves stay broke. Someone with a low standard for their dream will pursue it when life is calm. Someone with a high standard builds no matter the storm. You don't owe the world an explanation for your standards. You don't need family approval. You don't need friends to understand. You don't need co-workers to applaud. Your standard is for you, not for validation. And when you raise it, do not announce it, enforce it. Quiet enforcement produces loud results. Here's the tough truth. Everything in your life that frustrates you is something you've been tolerating. You're not trapped. You're accommodating. You're not stuck. You're accepting. You're not powerless. You're permitting. The moment you decide to stop tolerating it, your standard rises, and life has no choice but to respond. Raise your standard for how you talk to yourself. Stop using language that keeps you small. Stop calling yourself lazy, unlucky, behind, or incapable. Your mind is listening. Every label becomes a limitation. Replace it with declarations of strength, growth, and ownership. You don't speak according to where you are, you speak according to where you're going. Raise your standard for how you use your time. Every hour of your life is either an investment or a leak. Some of you leak time through procrastination, endless scrolling, drama, comparison, mindless entertainment, overthinking, toxic conversations. Then you wonder why you're exhausted but unproductive. Stop treating your dream like a side hobby and your distractions like a full-time job. Raise your standard for your energy. Who you talk to, what you listen to, what you watch, What you entertain, all of it feeds or drains your mental fuel. Stop letting negativity have a seat at your table. Stop engaging in conversations that shrink your drive. Stop seeking validation from people whose lives you don't want. Raise your standard for consistency. Doing the work when you can is not a standard, it's a suggestion. Winners don't live by suggestions, they live by codes. If you say you're going to show up, you show up. If you say you're committed, you act like it on the days you feel unstoppable and the days you want to disappear. Because consistency is not about feeling good, it's about staying aligned. Raise your standard for what you accept emotionally. Stop normalizing stress, chaos, and anxiety as permanent states. Stop glorifying struggle as your identity. You don't have to live in constant survival mode. You can decide that peace, clarity, and purpose are your new minimum. That doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you refuse to live in emotional dysfunction. Raise your standard for your environment. If the space around you doesn't reflect who you're becoming, it will sabotage your focus. Clean it. Upgrade it. Simplify it. Surround yourself with reminders of your future, not relics of your past. Your physical space is either a launch pad or a landfill. Treat it accordingly. Raise your standard for your circle. You don't cut people off because you're arrogant. You create distance because you're evolving. Alignment is not about love, it's about direction. You can love people and still refuse to match their habits. If they're not growing, not dreaming, not committed, not disciplined, eventually their rhythm will clash with yours. Don't let someone's comfort interrupt your calling. Raising your standard also means raising your standard for excuses. Your old reasons for quitting, delaying, or shrinking can no longer get a pass. I'm tired is not a pass. I'm stressed is not a pass. I don't feel like it is not a pass. People don't support me is not a pass. I've failed before is not a pass. You can honor your humanity without lowering your demands. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of higher standards. A version with stronger boundaries, bolder execution, clearer vision, deeper faith, sharper focus, and unshakable confidence. But that version is not coming to save you. You have to build them. And building them requires you to stop living like someone who is okay with being almost great. Ask yourself, what in my life have I normalized that needs to be rejected? What behaviors have I allowed that would never exist in the life I want? What habits am I defending that are actively delaying my breakthrough? What cycles am I repeating because my standards have been too low for too long? Raising your standard is not about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about matching your actions with your destiny. It's about looking at your dream and saying, I refuse to be the weak link in my own story. I will not be the reason I don't win. I will not be the excuse for my own delay. From this moment forward, you don't walk like someone hoping to change. You walk like someone who has already decided. You don't wait for the perfect moment to enforce new standards. You enforce them in the middle of the mess because that's when they matter most. When your standard rises, your language changes. Your posture changes, your decisions change, your pace changes, your tolerance level changes. The world notices. Opportunities notice, discipline notices, even your distractions notice. Because raised standards create a different energy, and energy is influence. Chapter 7. Guarding your focus. Like your life depends on it. Focus is not a personality trait. It's a weapon, and most people lose before they even start. Not because they're untalented, not because they're unlucky, not because they're incapable, but because they allow their focus to be hijacked by everything and everyone around them. You cannot become powerful with a scattered mind. You can't build momentum when your attention is cheap. You can't win when anything can interrupt you. Look around. We live in the most distracted era in human history. Attention spans are shorter than ever. People can't go 10 minutes without checking something, scrolling something, responding to something that doesn't matter. They wake up reactive, they move through the day reactive, they go to sleep drained by things that had nothing to do with their goals. And then they wonder why their progress is slow, why their dream feels distant, why they keep losing steam. This is not about technology. It's about ownership. Distraction will always exist. The question is, have you trained your mind to ignore it, or have you trained your mind to obey it? When your focus is weak, your goals feel heavy. The smallest task feels overwhelming. You procrastinate not because the work is impossible, but because your brain is overstimulated, unfocused, and exhausted from responding to everything except your purpose. You're not tired from doing too much. You're tired from doing too much of the wrong things. True focus isn't about forcing yourself to work harder. It's about clearing the path so your energy stops leaking. You don't need more time. You need fewer intrusions. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer mental tabs open. You don't need more confidence. You need more concentration. Focus is a form of self-respect. When you truly value your future, you stop allowing random conversations, notifications, pointless scrolling, gossip, negativity, and drama to rent space in your head. You stop explaining why you're unavailable. You stop apologizing for being unreachable. You stop letting everybody have access to you just because they want it. Most people aren't overthinking, they're overstimulated. Too many voices, too many opinions, too much noise. You can't hear your calling through chaos. You can't build clarity in an environment that keeps demanding your attention. If you don't control your inputs, you'll never control your outcomes. Guarding your focus starts with one decision. Not everything gets your energy. You need to define what deserves your attention and what doesn't. And once you decide, you don't negotiate, you don't entertain, you don't peek, you don't check for 1 minute. You don't respond to every message, jump on every call, listen to every problem, show up for every event, scroll every feed, react to every emotion. You choose based on alignment, not impulse. Distraction disguises itself as urgency. Not every emergency deserves your time. Not every text needs a response. Not every opinion requires a reply. Not every invite is an obligation. And not every problem is your assignment. The world will always try to give you something else to focus on. If your mind is not trained, you will spend your entire life reacting to other people's priorities instead of building your own. You cannot focus when your boundaries are weak. You cannot stay locked in when you make yourself available to everything. Your phone should not have more control over your life than your vision does. Your notifications should not dictate your mood. Your DMs should not detour your direction, and your comfort should not outrank your commitments. You can't build a winner's life with consumer habits. You know what kills focus? Endless consumption, watching everybody else's moves, comparing your pace to theirs, scrolling through their highlight reels while you ignore your own. You can't stay focused when your eyes are always on what other people are doing. That's how insecurity grows. That's how distraction multiplies. That's how time disappears. Creators focus, spectators scroll, builders focus, complainers gossip, leaders focus, followers react, winners focus, wanderers drift. You need to decide which category you're in. Focus requires environmental control. Stop trying to stay disciplined in spaces that destroy your concentration. If your room, your desk, your car, your phone, your social media feed, your friendships, your calendar, or your daily routine are cluttered, your mind will be too. Your environment should feed your direction, not fight it. Clean your space, delete the apps that drain you, mute the noise, cancel the subscriptions that distract you. Stop giving your energy to people who don't respect your grind. Silence the notifications that activate your impulses. Remove digital junk that keeps you scrolling instead of building. Your future deserves better conditions. Focus is built through training, not wishing. You don't wait to feel focused. You train yourself to stay focused. That means practicing concentration in small blocks. It means sitting with one task longer than your dopamine wants you to. It means resisting the itch to check your phone. It means finishing what you start. It means saying no without guilt. It means being unavailable on purpose. Successful people don't have more focus naturally. They have more focus intentionally. They've learned how to stay with something without escaping to distraction every 5 minutes. They've trained their brain to associate commitment with reward. They've disconnected productivity from mood. That's not luck. That's discipline. Focus sharpens your instincts. When you're dialed in, you start noticing things others miss. Opportunities, patterns, weaknesses, timing, shifts, signals. Your creativity grows because your bandwidth isn't cluttered. Your problem-solving improves because your attention isn't divided. Your decisions become clearer because doubt doesn't have room to multiply. Most breakthroughs don't come from doing more, they come from focusing deeper. One solid hour of undistracted effort is worth more than 6 scattered hours of starting and stopping. Mastery isn't about speed, it's about depth, and you can't go deep when your attention keeps snapping back to noise. Your focus determines your future. You can't say you want to win and still live like distraction is harmless. You can't say you're serious about growth while letting every impulse interrupt your progress. You can't ask for elevation while refusing to secure your mental gates. From this moment on, you need to treat your focus like a fortress. Not everyone gets access. Not every thought gets entry. Not every emotion gets a response. Your energy is too expensive to give away carelessly. Be unreachable when you're building. Be unavailable when you're growing. Be unapologetic about protecting your attention. You owe nobody an explanation for your silence. You owe nobody access to your time. You owe nobody updates on your moves. Your job is not to stay visible. Your job is to stay locked in. When you start focusing with intention, distractions will test you. They'll show up disguised as fun, urgent, harmless, or supportive. But you will know the truth by the results they produce. If it doesn't push you forward, it's pulling you back. If it doesn't fuel you, it drains you. And if it doesn't align with your future, it has no place in your present. Guard your focus like your life depends on it. Because it does. Chapter 8. The Cost of Self-Betrayal. You can't expect life to hand you the rewards you haven't earned. You can't demand respect from a world you keep hiding from. And you absolutely cannot build confidence by breaking promises to yourself. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you're not postponing the task. You're postponing your evolution. You're stepping back from the very person you claim you want to become. People talk a lot about discipline, waking up early, cutting off distractions, grinding while others rest. But there's a deeper layer nobody likes to mention: self-betrayal, the silent killer of momentum, the reason you feel stuck, the root cause behind frustration, low energy, and lack of belief. It's not that you can't succeed, it's that you keep abandoning yourself halfway through the journey. Let's get real. Every time you tell yourself you'll hit the gym and you don't, every time you say you're done with procrastination and then drown in distraction, every time you promise to work on your goals and instead scroll through your phone for hours, you're not just wasting time, you're damaging your identity. And your identity is the engine of your discipline. The world sells motivation like a cheap drug. Watch this video and feel unstoppable. Repeat these affirmations and believe you're powerful. But motivation without self-trust is a sugar rush, loud energy with a silent crash. Confidence doesn't come from inspiration, it comes from consistency. Confidence is the byproduct of showing up even when you don't feel like it. Self-belief is built in the unseen moments, not the public victories. And here's the truth most people never say out loud: you're not lacking discipline. You're tired of lying to yourself. You're tired of being excited about plans you never follow through on. You're tired of setting goals that feel more like decorations than decisions. You're tired of waking up every day feeling like you're chasing a version of yourself that keeps slipping away. Not because it's out of reach, but because you keep letting go. You don't fail because you're incapable. You fail because you negotiate with your own potential. Think about the times you've let yourself down. Something simple, maybe waking up at 5 a.m. for a morning routine. You go to bed committed. The alarm rings, and instead of rising, you roll over. You rationalize it. "I'll get up early tomorrow for sure." You didn't just stay in bed. You broke a contract with yourself. And the next time you make a promise, your subconscious whispers, "We don't really mean that, do we?" Self-betrayal is invisible at first. There's no crash, no explosion, no instant pain. But it builds silently. It chips away at your self-respect. And eventually, you start to believe your own excuses more than your dreams. You don't trust your word because you've treated it like an empty statement. Now, let's flip the script. Imagine this. Every promise you make to yourself becomes non-negotiable. Big or small, you follow through. You say you'll read for 20 minutes. You read. You say you'll work on your business after work. You work. You say you'll cut off negative influences. You cut them off. Day by day, your mind starts to see you differently. Instead of "we don't follow through," it becomes "when we say it, we do it." That shift changes everything. Your energy rises, your focus sharpens, your identity evolves. And suddenly, discipline isn't something you force, it's who you are. You want to know why some people move with unshakable confidence? It's not arrogance, it's not luck. It's not that they had it easier, it's because they trust themselves. They don't wait for the world to validate them. They've already validated their own word through action. So let's talk about how you rebuild that trust. How you stop self-betrayal in its tracks and replace it with self-alignment. Step 1. Shrink the promise, not the standard. If you can't commit to an hour, commit to 15 minutes. If you can't write a full chapter, write one paragraph. If you can't run 5 miles, start with 1. Don't aim for the dramatic. Aim for the consistent. Small wins don't just build progress. They rebuild identity. Step 2. Stop negotiating with your feelings. Your feelings are unreliable narrators. They'll tell you you're tired when you're just unmotivated. They'll say you're not ready when you're just scared. They'll whisper that it's not the right time, even though the right time doesn't exist. Discipline begins when the argument ends. Step 3. Create public pressure from private intention. Not external accountability, okay? Internal accountability. Speak your goals out loud when you're alone. Say it with conviction. I'm doing this today. Then move. The point isn't to impress others. It's to declare war on your own hesitation. Step 4. Detach from perfection and marry persistence. You're not losing because you're imperfect. You're losing because you keep resetting instead of continuing. Miss a day, get back the next day. Fell off track, walk back on. The most disciplined people aren't flawless, they're relentless. Now let me tell you something that might sting. Your excuses sound louder to you than they do to anybody else. The world isn't stopping you. The economy isn't stopping you. Your past isn't stopping you. Your family isn't stopping you. What stops you is the quiet permission you give yourself to stay the same. You can't pray for change and protect your comfort. You can't ask for growth and defend your distractions. You can't claim ambition but keep flirting with procrastination like it's harmless. Every choice matters. Every habit counts. Every skipped step sends a message inward. And if you've ever wondered why your energy is low, why your self-esteem dips, why you feel stuck in cycles, it's because self-betrayal has emotional consequences. It drains you. You carry the weight of unkept commitments. You walk around with the heaviness of unfulfilled potential. Not because you're weak, but because your spirit knows you're built for more. So let this chapter be your turning point. Not tomorrow, not after things settle down, right now. You don't fix self-betrayal with motivation, you fix it with integrity. You fix it by making a promise and keeping it, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. Start with one thing today. One decision you follow through on without compromise. One task you complete, even if it's small. One moment where you choose discipline over delay. Because that single act becomes a vote toward a new identity. And identity is everything. In the end, success is not about intelligence or talent or timing or luck. It's about this: can you trust yourself to do what you said you would do? If the answer is no, then nothing else matters. If the answer becomes yes, then nothing can stop you. And here's the unfiltered reality. The world will not believe in you until you believe in you. And you will not believe in you until you keep your word to yourself. This is the turning point. This is the call-out. This is the moment where the version of you that's been waiting in the shadows either steps forward or gets buried under another year of excuses. But I know this. You don't want another year of delay. You don't want another cycle of self-doubt. You're tired of the wait. You're tired of being tired. So the question is no longer, can you do it? The question is, will you stop betraying yourself long enough to find out? Because the life you want is not hiding from you, it's hiding behind your discipline. And the world won't move until you do. Chapter 9. Your silent battles shape your future. Nobody sees the war you fight when the world goes quiet. Nobody hears the arguments in your head when you're alone with your thoughts. Nobody feels the weight on your chest when you're trying to push forward, but your past keeps dragging at your ankle like a chain. These silent battles, the ones you never post about, never speak on, never explain, they are the fork in the road between who you are and who you could become. See, people think success is built in public. They think it's the followers, the applause, the recognition, the opportunities. But the truth is sharper and far less glamorous. Success is built in silence, in repetition, in lonely discipline, in private decisions that nobody claps for. Your future is being negotiated when nobody's watching. And make no mistake, your silent battles are not weaknesses. They're training grounds. They expose the parts of you that need upgrading. They show you where your excuses live. They reveal your deepest fears and your strongest desires, but too many people run from them, numb them, distract themselves, or pretend they're not there. That's how you lose the future, by ignoring the struggles that are trying to build you. Every time you hit that wall of hesitation, every time doubt whispers in your ear, every time your mind tells you to take the easy way out, that's not the end. That's the arena. And discipline is your weapon in that arena. But let's be honest, discipline is hardest when no one is checking on you. It's hardest when there's no deadline, no audience, no reward in sight. It's hardest when you're exhausted, when you've failed before, when nobody believes in you, when your environment doesn't support your vision. That's where your identity is either forged or forgotten. You ever wonder why some people seem unstoppable? It's not because they're fearless. It's because when fear shows up, they don't pause. They don't bow to it. They don't give it a seat at the table. They've trained themselves to move anyway. Their discipline isn't loud. It's cold, consistent, and unemotional. Most people wait for the right conditions to take action, the right mindset, the right timing, the right energy, the right plan. But disciplined people understand something the world rarely teaches. Alignment comes after action, not before it. They move, then momentum follows. They act, then clarity arrives. They commit, then confidence appears. Your silent battles are really conversations between two versions of you, the one you are and the one you're supposed to become. And whichever version you listen to the most is the one that wins. Maybe you're fighting the urge to quit something you haven't even given your full effort to. Maybe you're fighting the habit of starting and stopping, starting and stopping. Maybe you're fighting self-doubt, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, shame, distraction, addiction, comparison, laziness, fear of failure, fear of success. Yes, sometimes that one too. Maybe your battle is deeper, battling depression while trying to stay productive, battling financial pressure while building a dream, battling your family's doubt while chasing a calling they don't understand, battling your own procrastination while your goals gather dust. Nobody sees that war, and they don't have to. Because you're not fighting for validation, you're fighting for transformation. You want to know why the silent battles matter. Because if you can conquer yourself in isolation, nobody in public can stop you. If you can keep going when nobody's tracking your progress, your results will eventually speak for you louder than your mouth ever could. Discipline is not always about big gestures. Sometimes it's about the choice you make in a moment that doesn't seem important. The decision to study instead of scroll, to sleep instead of binge watch, to practice instead of complain, to push instead of delay. Every small battle you win privately becomes armor for the bigger ones ahead. You don't get stronger by shouting about what you're going through. You get stronger by pushing through it. Let's break it down. 1. The battle with distraction, your phone, your habits, your environment. They're stealing hours you can't get back. Some people don't realize they're losing, not because they're incapable, but because they're unguarded. Discipline is choosing focus in a world that profits from your attention being scattered. 2. The battle with doubt. Your mind will try to convince you that your efforts don't matter, that nobody cares, that you're not good enough, that it's too late, too difficult, too risky. But discipline interrupts that conversation. Discipline says, we move anyway. Success doesn't come to the most confident, it comes to the most consistent. 3. The battle with comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of ambition. It tells you you're fine where you are. It seduces you with rest before you've earned it. It convinces you that staying the same is safer than evolving, but every time you choose discomfort on purpose, life rewards you with growth, opportunities, and strength. 4. The battle with your past self. Your past is not your enemy. Your attachment to it is. The person you were last year, last month, last week, yesterday. That version of you cannot lead you into the future you want. Discipline demands you break patterns, not repeat them. 5. The battle with time. You think you have time. You think you can delay, restart, catch up later, but you're not just losing days, you're losing belief. The longer you wait, the heavier the work becomes. Eventually, you don't just have to build the dream, you have to rebuild your spirit too. Here's the truth: the people who win in life don't always feel strong, they just stop giving their weakness the final say. They show up tired, they show up uncertain, they show up injured, scared, unmotivated, but they show up. And that one act separates them from everyone still negotiating with their feelings. Your future is not built in the moments where everything makes sense. It's built in the moments where nothing does, but you move anyway. Discipline is not about ignoring fear, it's about refusing to let fear vote on your decisions. Think about the person you're becoming. If you met them face to face today, would they thank you or confront you? Would they say, "I'm proud of how you carried us through the struggle"? Or would they say, "Why did you keep abandoning me when things got difficult"? You don't owe your past explanations, you owe your future consistency. And I want you to hear this clearly. There is no such thing as "nobody will notice if I quit." Somebody will notice, you, and once you see yourself quit enough times, you stop expecting greatness from someone who keeps choosing the easy way out. But there's good news. Every time you fight through, even a little, something shifts. You may not see it instantly, but your spirit feels it. Your identity shifts one decision at a time. Let this chapter be a mirror, not to judge you, but to remind you what's still possible. The world doesn't need the version of you that settles. The world needs the version of you that refuses to stay in the same chapter just because it's familiar. Your silent battles are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you're in the arena. And as long as you're in the arena, you can still win. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. You don't need permission. You need discipline, and you need it most when the world is not watching. Because the day will come when the world will see what you built in the dark. And that day will belong to you. Chapter 10. The day you decide you're done playing small, there comes a moment, not a date on the calendar, not a motivational spike, not after a crisis, but a quiet, powerful moment when something inside you snaps in the best way possible. You look at your life, your habits, your excuses, your patterns, and you finally say, "I'm done." Not done hoping, not done complaining, not done wishing, done settling, done delaying, done shrinking. That moment is not loud. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's a breath, a stare in the mirror, a long drive home, a bad day that turns into a breakthrough, a realization that the life you want isn't going to chase you. You have to claim it. You don't need more time. You don't need more applause. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need one decision, one internal shift, one declaration that from this point on, you will not play small with your potential. Because playing small is not humility, it's fear disguised as modesty. It's comfort pretending to be wisdom. It's your old self negotiating with your future. And every time you agree to shrink, you're not protecting yourself. You're slowly erasing yourself. Your dreams didn't show up in your mind by accident. They're not hallucinations, they're invitations. And ignoring them doesn't make you safe. It makes you suffocate. Deep down, you know you're capable of more. You've always known. The problem isn't possibility, it's permission. You've been waiting for the right moment, but the right moment isn't coming, because it's already here. The decision doesn't become real when everything aligns. Everything aligns after the decision becomes real. Look around at your life right now. Your results are not a reflection of your potential. They're a reflection of what you've tolerated. That's a hard truth, but a necessary one. What you keep allowing will keep existing. What you don't confront, you don't change. And what you don't change, you choose, by default. You can't play small and expect big outcomes. You can't keep dimming your fire to make others comfortable and then wonder why you're cold. You can't keep putting your goals on pause and then call it bad luck. At some point, the most powerful sentence you will ever say is, "I'm done living below my calling." Say it with your actions, not just your mouth. Now let's get brutally honest. Most people are not stuck because they lack opportunity. They're stuck because they're loyal to their limitations. They defend them. They nurture them. They use them as pillows and hiding spots. They think their barriers make them unique, when really, their discipline would make them unstoppable. Playing small happens quietly at first. You lower your standards just for now. You stay in rooms that drain you. You dim your voice to avoid judgment. You let your talents stay hobbies instead of sharpening them into weapons. You wait to be chosen instead of choosing yourself. You don't collapse in one moment, you erode slowly. And that erosion becomes your personality if you don't interrupt it. So let's interrupt it. If you knew you couldn't fail, how would you move? If you knew people would criticize you anyway, would you keep hiding? If you knew the door wasn't locked, you were just standing still, would you finally turn the handle? Here's a truth most people never face. You've already survived the worst days you thought would destroy you. So what exactly are you still afraid of? Embarrassment, rejection, being misunderstood, starting over? All of that is temporary. Regret isn't. Imagine looking back a year from now, same routine, same procrastination, same excuses, same fear. That should terrify you more than taking a risk. The future you're afraid of doesn't hurt you. The habits you defend do. You want a transformation? Stop negotiating with the part of you that wants to stay comfortable. That part does not care about your happiness. It only cares about familiarity. And familiarity is a cage dressed up like a blanket. But here's the good news. The moment you decide you're done playing small, things start shifting fast. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You speak differently, you move differently, you plan differently. You walk into rooms with a sense of presence instead of permission. You stop begging for support and start building your own momentum. You start honoring your ideas instead of second-guessing them. You recognize that staying silent about your potential is not humility. It's self-abandonment. And let me be clear, deciding you're done playing small doesn't mean you suddenly feel ready. Readiness is a myth. It means you move in spite of unpreparedness. It means you stop waiting to feel confident and let courage lead instead. It also means you stop explaining your dreams to people who don't have the capacity to understand them. You don't need critics to approve you. You don't need family to validate you. You don't need strangers to applaud you. The version of you you're becoming requires self-permission, not public opinion. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you expand. Every time you confront fear with action, you evolve. Every time you set a boundary, you reclaim power. Discipline becomes less of a struggle and more of a declaration. I refuse to stay small. And let's talk about relationships. Because playing small is often tied to who you keep around. Some people only like you when you're not shining too bright. They're comfortable with the version of you that doubts, struggles, hesitates. Because it makes their own stagnation easier to justify. The moment you grow, you become a mirror they can't stand to look into. You don't have to cut everyone off. But you do have to outgrow some environments. Elevation requires relocation, mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically. Loyalty to your future must outweigh loyalty to your comfort zone. Here's what happens when you stop playing small. 1. Your standards rise. You stop begging for opportunities and start creating them. You stop tolerating half-hearted effort from yourself. You stop letting people treat you in ways that disrespect your evolution. 2. Your actions align. You don't try anymore, you commit. You don't dabble, you build. You don't wait for a sign, you move and let the signs follow. 3. Your energy changes. People feel it when you walk in the room. You're not desperate. You're not hiding. You're not apologizing for existing. You know you belong in the spaces you're working toward. 4. Your growth becomes non-negotiable. You stop explaining why you're unavailable for what drains you. You stop second-guessing your ambition. You stop shrinking to be digestible. This is not about ego. This is about ownership. It's about refusing to let fear puppeteer your destiny. It's about looking at your life and saying, I may not control everything, but I control what I allow, and what I build. You've had voices in your head telling you to wait, voices telling you it's not the right time, voices telling you to chill, to blend in, to be realistic. But there's another voice, the quiet one, the one you silence too often, that's been telling you to rise. That voice is your future self trying to get your attention, and that voice is tired of watching you negotiate with your greatness. So here's the line in the sand. You either keep playing small and suffer quietly, or you decide today that your potential is no longer optional. Not tomorrow, not after the weekend, not when life calms down, now. Because your next level is not waiting for the economy or your friends or your past to let go. It's waiting for you to stop pretending the door is locked. This is your life. This is your moment. This is the season you stop shrinking and start stepping. The world may not be ready for your full power, but that's not your problem. You didn't come this far to stay invisible. You're done playing small, and the rest of your life is about to prove it.